little bit of a first for you in the French newspapers today. Karl Brown's actually starting with some good news. It's for the French Olympic team.
Yes, indeed. We've got good news from the Olympic team, especially with this young woman here. Look at the big smile. She's done well. She's gained the gold. Yeah. Yes, in Judo. So that's Lucy d'Écosse. She won the gold, and it brings France into about third place. I say about because it's depending on the list we're looking at, they're third or fourth, but the first two are obviously China and the US, and that. France has been doing exceedingly well. Parisien, the Libération, they're both coming with glowing reports about how well the judo team has done in particular. And it shows that, it's just yet another sign that it's trying to take France's attention away from the other bad news, which we're about to get into.
Exactly. And top of that bad news list is, of course, the latest situation in Syria. Le Monde has a witness account. This is from a Syrian army deserter.
Yes, indeed. We've been hearing for months now about deserters, about the Free Syrian Army growing in its ranks, and about the number of soldiers fleeing the Syrian army. Here we have in the front page of Le Monde, as you can see there, a first-hand account of one of the deserters, and we've been hearing kind of the broad trends, but now we have a few of the details. He goes back to some of the earlier stages when he was still a member of the army. He was talking about the growing fear among the soldiers, where or rather among the officers, because they started to suspect things when news started to get out that the protests were spreading. This is the first months. Mobile phones were prohibited among the ranks. Televisions were then prohibited. Slowly, the soldiers among the rank and file, they were cut off from the outside world, and they were just told simply go and tackle this big demonstration. But it's a demonstration where there are loads of terrorists, and they were expecting big battles. And we hear from these accounts that they had no idea what was really going on until suddenly they found themselves sent into these areas, these cities surrounding people, and they turned out to be just simple people like themselves. That's when they started to fear things, and that they were actually fighting on the wrong side. So they started to flee in large numbers. Couple of signs that the Alawites and the Sunni soldiers being the rank and file, the Alawites being among the officers, there was growing suspicion between the two sides. And what happened, the suspicion between them was so great at one point that the officers started to follow soldiers right down to the toilets to make sure that no one was fleeing anymore. But of course, it didn't stop the flight.
Oh, fascinating tale, isn't it? And the fighting in Syria is also now spreading to Christian areas for the first time. Some of the papers talking about that.
That's right. We've got Le Figaro talking about that. We see here front page, the Syrian Christians praying. They fear that now that in some of the old parts of Damascus, Christian parts of the town, previously there was no fighting in these parts. Now there has been for the first time. For the first time, we have rebels gaining access to these areas, and the Christians actually fear that should there be an aftermath after Bashar al-Assad, they might be the targets of Islamic militants who take power.
Let's come back to France then. Allegations that big reforms expected of François Hollande's government are not exactly what they were cracked up to be.
Yes, now let's go back to Le Figaro, the front page, Les Grandes Réformes. So here we see, a reform measure that's at point mort. In other words, that's French for pretty much neutral, stuck in neutral, not going anywhere. And people are wondering in the right side of the press, basically what's happened to these grand promises of change now, because after 11 weeks they're saying, well, we haven't really seen much. It's not really a policy to say we'll undo everything that Sarkozy did. The tax on overtime hours that Sarkozy lifted, okay, the left now is going to put it back, but that's not really much of a policy platform. So where is the real policy?
That's the feeling on the right. What about the left's take on the socialist government's first 3 months?
Indeed. Here we have, back to the front page of Libération, Hollande is going, back to basics. And the point there is, yeah, actually, we would expect Libération to disagree, but they quite agree with Le Figaro. They're saying, listen, cleaning the slate from the previous administration does not constitute a policy, and the current economic situation doesn't bode well. There's a drop in household spending, stagnating growth, really not a lot to say for the first 11 weeks. So they say, instead, Hollande is building up his muscle for the autumn, rather a wry look at the fact that he's not quite building up in times for summer.
It is August. Not much happens here in France in August. Karl, thanks very much. Karl Brown with the newspapers here on France 24.